And also, if they allow us in the legislature, if they have statutes that say we can regulate these things that are covered by these 4 conditions, and we in fact have taken steps to make those requirements of our site plan, our site plans, then by all means we can require things that we have the authority and we have adopted the authority to require. What my concern has been that some of these things that they agreed to, which I think they still agree to, we don't have the legal authority under our ordinances to point to them and say, you've got to do this as a condition of the approval. Now, if they, as I say, if they agree to, then you can do that. I just don't want us to be in a position where we've exceeded our authority, especially when it looks like we're on the cusp of getting these folks exactly what they want. And if for some reason we end up in a disagreement about the language of these things, then I don't want us to have put as conditions on this approval of a site plan things that we don't have the legal authority to do. That's all I'm trying to make sure of, because once that happens, then they've got a conditional approval that they can't meet, and we won't have authority to issue them a building permit, and then somebody out there might have a real upset situation if they're not able to sell their property.
An individual is an authorized representative of Powell Acres going to sign, or is it going to require the signature of each property owner affected by that buffer line?
What the draft that I have done, which is obviously subject to change because I don't think Powell Acres has a formal corporation that is an association. They may call themselves an association, but they don't have a legal entity. So the draft I have, I've looked up the 4 owners that abut, and I've got them listed by name as parties to the agreement. Now, it could be that we expand that and put people on the other side of the road from the people that back up to this property. It doesn't matter to me. That's the kind of issue that, one of the issues we need to kind of work out. There's any number of, I mean, it's 9 or 10 pages long, so there's probably a number of things that we need to sort of work out. I would think they're the ones that are the most affected. I mean, their property is going to be touched. You know, that's another thing. We don't have the authority to direct a developer to come in and make improvements on somebody else's property. If they agree to do it, fine. But we can't tell them, you got to go over there and do this. We don't have that authority. But those people, their land's going to be touched. And so I think if I were them, I would want to have the right to have my name on that agreement if if I find that agreement to be important.
Hi, Pam Roach, Ida Hertzler. My situation would be, I would want to sign that because I'm on the other side of Ida Hertzler where the flooding, we showed flooding pictures here a few weeks ago. And so, anyway, back to square one, I guess, like one of the people said, before the B1 buffer that everybody in the town of Farragut recognized until tonight, we already wanted some of these things done before we even knew there was a B1 buffer, the flooding and so forth and so on. So really the B1 buffer has nothing to do with really anything, I guess, since there really isn't a B1 buffer. But so I guess we're asking the town of Farragut then, if there's a Costco put in, we would like those things done to protect our property and to protect our property value. And also the walking trail that's going to be around Costco, you know, that gabion wall is not something that people are going to want to look at if they're walking around the walking trail that Farragut put in. Let
me just address that briefly. And the B1 buffer that it's been there since 1990, 50 feet wide, it hadn't changed. It does have a lot to do with why we're here. It has everything to do with why we're here, because were it not for the belief on the part of the developer that they were going to have to rezone 50 feet of that 100 feet C1, then there would be absolutely nothing anybody could have done to have extracted these things from Costco. We don't have the authority to tell them to put this kind of wall. We haven't adopted that in our regulations. We haven't gone to the point yet in our regulations to, and maybe we will, but we don't tell people what kind of materials to use in their buildings. Hadn't gotten to the point where we can require some of these things in our regulations, and therefore the ability to get them to agree to this was based on the mistaken belief that they were going to have to go through this rezoning process, which obviously they would want you to support, because they may not get it approved if you didn't support it. That changes, that gave a certain amount of leverage that we worry that we don't want to have the impression out there that, we're taking advantage of a mistake in trying to cause people to do I'm just being as blunt as I can here, to do things that they are not otherwise required to do, or that we can't make them do. And so that's kind of the issue. I think you're going to get exactly what you want. They've come back 3 or 4 times saying, we understand there was a mistake. We still intend to stand by what we agreed to do. If they change that, then, I'll be very disappointed. But I don't think that's what's in the cards. I think it's to let us go ahead and get this thing approved, and then let us get this agreement distributed so we can get the details worked out and get some input from the engineers and people that know, and so we can finish the agreement and get the agreement in a shape that protects everybody in the way that I think is reasonable for them to be protected. The rush is because we have an application that we've been handling for site plan approval that has that you've got somebody that wants to use their property, and arguably they've been held up as a result of a mistake and conditions that might create further delays. Well, I don't know. I mean, we'd have to ask them, but we got, before tonight or before this past week, they were going to be held up for a long time, because if they had to get the rezoning, they were going to have several months of meetings to go to. And that's why it's critical that we get away from this rezoning thing, because it's just not necessary. It's not appropriate to ask them to rezone property that doesn't need to be rezoned. Yes. That's not now going to have to happen. Well, it's all connected, Bernie. It's all interrelated, and that's why it's complicated, and that's why it's been a little bit of that's why we're having a special meeting. Normally we wouldn't do this.
First thing we did was basically adopt the right zoning map and the buffer shown on it. That's all we did in that first motion was, throw out the one with the error and put the one that had the right information on it.
With one clarification.
Yeah.
It threw out every other agreement that took place on July 21st.
Not yet. Not yet. All we've done is all we've done right now is change the map to correct it. That's just now we have to rescind the actions we took.
That's been an error since 1999. 21 years behind.
That's all that was of that first motion. The next step is to, now that that's corrected, we have to, rescind what we did at the last meeting. Then we have to go forward based on the correct map and the right zone.
Procedural steps. All the agreements that were part and parcel of the original site plan that supposedly Costco has done are null and void.
They will be, yes.
And shortly, we have another meeting we're running up against here, so we need to move along.
Yeah, let me emphasize, this meeting needs to either end or recess at 7 o'clock, because by statute, we are required to start the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting at 7.
Mr. Chairman, propose that we stop debate now and pursue the motion.
Say that in the mic.
I
I'm
second.
sorry. I propose that we cease the debate at this point and proceed to the motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay,
I'll make a motion then to rescind the resolution to approve the site plan for the Costco warehouse and all attached conditions as approved in the July 21st, 2011 FMPC meeting.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Now, let me say this on behalf of the town. As you execute your agreement with Costco, we want to be apprised of how it's going and what you end up with, and as I understand, Tom Hale will be involved in that process. And to the extent that we are legally able to, we will make sure that they meet those agreements to the extent that we can. I'll promise that. Now, while we can't legally require them to, we sure have a power of persuasion. So keep that in mind.
All planning commission members, we have the packet for next week's meeting at your place tonight. Be sure and take those with you. You have something? Oh, okay.
Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve the Costco wholesale site plan as proposed in the July 21st, 2011 FMPC meeting, contingent upon the resolution of items 1 through 27 and 31 listed in Exhibit F, noting that item 22 has been modified to require Farlow Drive relocation plans be submitted and approved by Knox County prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The special call meeting, August 11th, 2011 is adjourned.